Why do I own all of this? Would I buy the same investments today? Is anyone actually paying attention to this? If conditions change, do I know what happens next? Or is this just what I ended up with? If you've ever looked at your investment statement and thought any of that, you're not alone. So before I answer those questions, it helps to understand the framework behind how I manage capital. I refer to it as the capital shield. These questions matter because most portfolios aren't intentionally designed from the start. They're assembled over time through advisor changes, product rotations, and market cycles. My work is built largely around studying how large institutions manage money when the stakes are high. Places like pension funds, endowments, or family offices that are responsible for billions of dollars and decades of long-term obligations. They don't rely on gut feelings or market noise. They rely on structure, research, and disciplined execution. The capital shield isn't a collection of investments, it's a structure. Capital is deliberately assigned different responsibilities. Some are to protect, some are to grow, others are to respond when conditions are changing. My goal isn't to predict outcomes, it's to build a portfolio that continues to function even when I don't know the outcomes. Earlier, I asked a simple question. Why do you own all of this? When you look at your investment statement, you see a list of funds, strategies, managers, but it's not always clear what your portfolio was designed to do. And that's because many portfolios aren't built as a system. They're built one decision at a time. An account gets opened, a recommendation gets added, change gets made to solve a short-term concern. Each step makes sense on its own, but without an overall structure, the portfolio doesn't clearly answer a more important question. What is this portfolio supposed to protect me from? Markets change. Economic conditions shift. Unexpected events happen. A portfolio that's built intentionally accounts for that uncertainty. Each part has a role. Some areas are designed to protect your capital. Some are built to grow it. Others exist to respond when conditions are changing. When those roles are clearly defined, the portfolio behaves with purpose. And that's the difference between owning investments and building a proper capital shield. Once you understand that, the next question becomes much harder to ignore. Would I buy these same investments today? Not because something is wrong, but because conditions never stand still. Again, markets change, economic environments shift, personal timelines shorten. The capital shield is built with that reality in mind. When portfolios are constructed without a clear structure, decisions tend to be tied to the moment they were made. There was a particular concern, maybe a specific opportunity, a change in the environment. The investment may still exist years later, though, even though the conditions that justified it no longer do. And that's when a portfolio starts to answer yesterday's questions instead of tomorrow's risks. A deliberately structured portfolio is different. Each investment is selected for a role it plays across changing conditions. Some areas are existing to protect capital when uncertainty rises. Some are designed to compound growth over longer periods. Others are positioned to respond when opportunities appear. When those roles are defined up front, the question isn't whether you would buy the same investment again in today's environment. The question is whether that role still belongs in the structure. And it's a different way of looking at it. It shifts the focus away from individual investments and toward how the portfolio as a whole is meant to behave when the future doesn't look like the past. And once you start thinking that way, another question becomes unavoidable. Is anyone actually paying attention to this? Institutions define in advance when portfolios are reviewed and when decisions are allowed to be made. Those review points are deliberate. They exist whether markets are calm or volatile. This creates consistency. Instead of reacting to what just happened, the portfolio is assessed at planned intervals. Roles are examined, imbalances are addressed, so the overall structure continues to behave as intended. Here's the simplest test an investor can apply. Do you know when your portfolio was formally reviewed for decisions, or is your advisor just reporting on it? If that answer isn't clear, then oversight is being assumed, not being designed. A capital shield relies on structure. That structure is what allows portfolios to hold up when outcomes are uncertain. And once that structure is in place, the next question just naturally follows. If markets get rough, do I know what happens next? Most investors don't. Not because they aren't paying attention, but because their portfolio was never built with a defined response in mind. When conditions change, decisions are made in real time based on emotion, headlines, or urgency. Capital Shield works differently. It doesn't try to protect what comes next. It assumes the future is going to be uncertain. That's why it's built around clearly defined investment roles. Some areas exist to protect capital during stress. Some are meant to continue compounding over time. Others I've positioned to respond when opportunity appears. Because those roles are designed in advance, the portfolio doesn't need a new plan every time conditions change. It already has one. When markets become volatile, the question isn't what we do now. It is the structure behaving as intended? And that distinction matters. It creates opportunities. It allows decisions to be made deliberately instead of urgently. Adjustments are made to preserve balance, not to chase outcomes. The goal isn't to avoid uncertainty. It's to remain functional inside of it. That's what the Capital Shield is really designed to do. I know this is only 4 answers, and at the beginning I've asked 5, but by now the pattern behind them should be clear. When a portfolio isn't built deliberately, what you end up with is the result of timing, convenience, and circumstances. Accounts get opened, investments get added, decisions are made to address whatever is immediately in front of you. Over time, the portfolio reflects what happened rather than what it was designed to do. The Capital Shield is built from the opposite direction. Capital is assigned responsibility, the structure is defined before outcomes are known, decisions are made within clear boundaries, so the portfolio continues to behave as intended when conditions change. That difference becomes more important as your timelines shorten and your flexibility decreases. At that stage, results depend less on your individual holdings and more on whether the structure was designed intentionally. This approach isn't meant for everyone. It's built for people who don't want their financial future shaped by default. They want it constructed with purpose. If this way of thinking about capital resonates with you, the next step isn't reviewing your investments. It's understanding whether the structure is the right fit. You can explore working together with me at franzvickerson.ca/investment planning, and that's where the process starts. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe